Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Hello there and welcome to episode 9 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. It's fantastic to have you here with me. My name is Catherine Eardley. I am your host as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for creative product businesses, helping you to start, scale and grow a profitable product business. You can find out more at resilientretailclub.com. Today's episode is all about social media. There is no escaping social media if you are a creative product business owner. But people often, especially when they're first starting out, really have a tough time getting their head around how do you actually sell on social media. Often the very first hurdle that you have to get over is embracing the idea that you have to sell at all. So many people tell me that they really struggle with this element of growing their business, that they may have loved putting together the creative product ideas. Maybe they've even enjoyed getting to grips with the technical side, but when it actually comes to selling, a lot of us, especially, I'm going to say it, a lot of British people, we tend to have this difficulty with putting ourselves out there and actually selling our products. So if this sounds familiar to you, then this episode is all about how do you actually sell on social media. As I said, the first thing you have to do is really all about mindset. It's really about embracing the idea that it's okay to sell. And one thing that helps people grasp this or feel more comfortable with it is this idea of selling is service. So you're not just pushing unwanted products down somebody's throat, you're explaining how your products can help your ideal customer. And sometimes this shift is enough to help people move from being really stuck about what it is that they want to do with their selling to actually being able to embrace it and, dare I say it, actually enjoy it. We've talked in previous episodes where I've talked about creating the ideal product and knowing your customer, and really all of that feeds into one question. What problem is your product solving? Often people feel like if you're selling a creative product business, so if you're selling jewellery or candles or art prints, stationery, homewares, all of those things, people often feel, well, realistically, what kind of problems am I solving? Because it's not like we are selling life-saving equipment, for example. However, let's go back to this idea of the problem doesn't have to be something as serious. Doesn't have to be something serious or life-threatening. It could simply be that they have a friend that they want to get a really nice present for, or maybe they want something to treat themselves. Maybe they want to feel stylish and up-to-date, fashionable, but without breaking the bank. Those are all problems that you could be solving for your customer. So a jewellery brand could be helping customers add a touch of glamour to their everyday life. The stationery brand could bring a little luxury into everyday life or help them feel more organised. Perhaps a homewares brand helps people brighten up their living space. So there's lots and lots of ways that you could actually perceive that your business is solving problems for your customer. And then once you start with that perspective, how you're helping them solve a problem, then selling, in other words, talking about your products and talking about the features and the benefits, that all becomes then much more about service as opposed to feeling like it's somehow sleazy or whatever else you might be telling yourself. I think I would also just challenge as well this idea that somehow selling is sleazy, because after all, people are able to make their own decisions. And unless you're indulging yourself in some nefarious business practices, which you're very unlikely to be doing. It's not like you're tricking people or doing anything other than offering them something, frankly, quite delightful. So I would say, again, the more that you can try and get out of this mindset that somehow selling is bad and more about this mindset of how selling is service, it will really help you. And that will help you just be able to show up on social media and to feel more comfortable about the process. So before we go any further, just a couple of things that I want to say about social media. Obviously, it's a really important way that you can reach your ideal customer very quickly, and it can be something where you can see results fairly quickly, depending on your product and depending on how much effort you're putting into it. I do have to say that social media is not the only way to sell your products. If you've not listened to the previous episode about the 4 ways to grow your sales, I definitely suggest that you go back and give that a listen. Because one thing I will say is that if you put all of your eggs into one basket, in other words, you put all of your effort into selling on social media and you don't, for example, put effort into growing your email list or try and do some PR outreach or work on your SEO, search engine optimization, or anything else like that, chances are you could exhaust yourself because social media, while it can be very effective, technically speaking, the traffic that comes from social media converts at a lower percentage than traffic, say, coming from your email newsletters. Before we really dive into this episode, I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind, that social media is one tool in your selling toolkit, but it is not an entire sales strategy. Even though I'm talking to you today about the importance of it and about how you can make it work for you, I don't want you to feel like it's the only thing that you need to be doing. Okay, that's enough of a preamble. Let's dive in. Social media. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the key platforms your customers will be using to be sociable on. It could be Facebook, Instagram, it could be TikTok. These are all examples of social media. It could be LinkedIn, especially if you're selling business to business. You need to, first off, before you go too much further, especially if you're first starting out, you need to have a think about where your customer actually is. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Where do you believe that your ideal customer is actually spending their time? If you're not sure about this, then I would suggest that you go back and do some work on your ideal customer profile. It's an exercise that I include in both my Start Your Business course within the Resilient Retail Club, as well as the Grow Your Sales course, because I think it's really important for you to have that good sense of who your customer is to help you answer those questions before you go too far onto a social media platform where your customer just doesn't seem to be. I'm not including Pinterest in social media because actually I think Pinterest works differently. That is a visual search engine more than anything else. It's not social media in the stricter sense of the word where you are socially interacting. And that really is the key with social media. The clue is in the name. It used to be that when social media first started coming out, then it was very much seen as a broadcast platform in the same way as television or radio. You would be able to broadcast onto social media, and then it was about pushing your content out. For a long time, big retailers, for example, if you were to look at the way that they showed up on social media, it was all about them pushing out their content. But over the last few years, social media has really changed. It's not about that broadcast method anymore. It is really about you having a conversation. And that's something else that I'd just like to stress, is that we think about social media still in a way as kind of broadcast like a radio or something like that. But actually, it's more like a telephone. In other words, you can speak directly to anybody that you like on social media. You can comment on their posts, as long as their account is public, obviously. And you can even respond to their stories. You have an absolutely untapped potential to reach out to collaborators, other businesses you want to work with, even your ideal customers themselves, and to actually make those connections in a way that just simply wouldn't be possible without social media. So in a way, your social media selling needs to have two elements to it. It needs to have, yes, the content that you put out there, the content that you put out on your social media, is sometimes described as being like a magazine. So it's a mix of messages to show that if somebody goes back to your profile, takes a look at your content, that they understand who you are and what you're all about. The other element that you have to have is that social interaction and that actual ability to talk to other people and to use that ability. The social media platforms actually love it when you are more interactive. They tend to respond well to accounts that are clearly on the platform, using it and speaking to other people. So if you're somebody who's been out there trying to get connections on social media, trying to get some traction, ask yourself how much time you spend just interacting with your ideal customers and how much time are you spending just pumping out content. If you feel like you're putting all of your time into creating and pushing out content, try mixing it up. Try switching out your time so that you're maybe spending slightly less time creating the perfect posts and more time talking to your ideal customers. If you're not sure where to find your ideal customers, again, this goes back to being really clear about where they live on the internet rather, and being clear about the kinds of accounts that they would follow, the kinds of music that they would listen to, the kinds of books they would read, the kinds of television shows that they would watch, the kind of magazines that they would read, understanding the kind of themes that they would be following, the other kinds of businesses that they might also be interested in. So when you're looking for your ideal customer on social media, it is definitely a question of you being really clear as to who they are, gathering as much information as possible about them, and then actually going and finding where they're spending their time. So that would be my biggest takeaway for you for social media, is if you're struggling on social media, is to be thinking about the amount of time that you're actually interacting. And I certainly spend a lot of time when I'm on my social media platforms, making sure that I'm not just putting out content, but I'm also interacting. And I'm also encouraging people to interact with me as well, whether that's putting out questions for people to answer or polls and Instagram stories, for example, or whether or not I'm asking people to respond to my post by giving them a really simple thing to do, like double tap if you agree, for example. So the more that you can prove that there's a connection between you and your followers, the more your social media platform, whichever one it is that you're working on, the more that social media platform is going to see you as a really good account, and the more that they're likely to be putting your content in front of other people. And while we're on the subject of content, I want to also touch on something that I see a lot, which is when people talk about the algorithm. And it's very common to see posts where people say, well, the Instagram algorithm has changed and all of a sudden organic reach has dropped and they're choking small businesses because they want to get them to pay more, for example. And I would say that there's a couple of things here. If you're putting out content and you're not getting much reaction, I think you have to ask yourself in a really honest way, is the content good enough? Is the content that I'm putting out really worth other people looking at, commenting on, liking? Have you pushed yourself enough to come up with something interesting, fun, different that you can say that will entertain or inform your customers? So it's easy to blame the algorithm, but in all honesty, is your content strong enough? And it sounds like a harsh thing to say, but it's something that I ask myself frequently. And one of the ways that I take a look at whether or not my content is strong enough is I will look at my analytics once a week. I look at my analytics, I look at the best performing posts, and I try and pull out what people react to, what they don't react to, and then I try and do more of what people have reacted to and less of what they didn't. Periodically, I just try something completely different that I've never tried before just to see what impact it has. So it might be that I normally do images and I'll try a video. It might be that I've done a video and I'll try a graphic. It might be that I try something funny or a meme, or I might try doing an infographic. So it's actually sharing a piece of information. But basically, I'm constantly trying to push it to see what content is actually going to resonate. The more I do that, the more I pick out what works and I do more of it, then the more overall interaction that I get and the further the content goes. Periodically, I do find that certain things that were working just drop down again, but then you have to sort of start the process again. And you can either say, oh, it's the algorithm is out to get me, or you can just say, well, okay, what other things are working? Take a look around, take a look at accounts that you admire. What are some of the things that they're doing? Can you try different things? Can you try something else? Or actually try putting up things that you feel really passionate about. As if you feel like you've got stuck in a formula, then try breaking out of that. Keep looking at the content and keep asking yourself, if I was my ideal customer and I was scrolling through Instagram, what would actually make me stop and take a look at this? And the other thing I would say as well about this is that it's not really sort of a finite answer. Part of our jobs as small business owners is to keep trying to push ourselves to get better. There is a load of stuff that I know that I don't do that well on Instagram, and I'm trying to learn more. I almost feel like I study Instagram like the way that I would study a foreign language. I'm always constantly pushing myself to try new things or to keep an eye out for new ideas, and constantly looking to embrace. So when Instagram puts out a new feature, for example, they recently put out Reels, it's fantastic if you can jump on top of that as quickly as possible, because again, Instagram will reward you if you start using their new features, because they want to get them seen and they want them to get traction. So whenever possible, work with Instagram to try out the new features and to just try new things. I would say that I've seen people grow their social media followings in lots of different ways. Some people grow them really well because they get great traction with certain types of posts. Some people have grown them really well because they've done lots and lots of collaborations and lives with other people. Some people have grown them because an influencer picked up their account and featured it. So there's lots of different ways. There isn't really a one size fits all. And actually, the people who you see who have grown larger followings, maybe 50,000 or 60,000, they've done it in a variety of different ways. They've tried lots of different things over time. They've had a look, they've seen which ones worked, they've done more of those. It's very rare that I speak to somebody and they say, right, this is how I grew it. And it was like one thing. Usually it was an amalgamation of lots and lots of different things. If you're not sure about what to actually say, this is the other thing that people say to me. I don't know what to say on social media. Think of your ideal customer. Imagine that ideal customer sitting on their phone. What are the kinds of things they're going to be interested in reading about and seeing from you? So if you're a travel accessories company, for example, and you have got an ideal customer who is a 20-something, well, before COVID would have been maybe on European city breaks frequently, that kind of thing, then what kind of content would they like to hear about? They'd probably like to hear about fun destinations. They'd probably like some tips and hacks on travel and minimizing travel fatigue or making their travel experience as great as possible. They would definitely like to see your products and to understand how they could help them have a better trip. And they probably want to see something fun about traveling, or just some fun, interesting, useful information for them about fun destinations or fun activities to do, or what's hot right now in travel. So these are all different things that people might be interested in. So if you can narrow that down into a few themes, then when you start creating your content for social media, you can then cycle through these different themes, or sometimes these would be called your content buckets. So different themes that you can create that your customer would be interested in hearing about. But it has to come from what your customer would be interested in. Again, I go into this in a lot of depth in both Start Your Business and Grow Your Sales, because getting that messaging, I wouldn't say nailing it, because nailing suggests that that's it once and done. But creating a framework that you can use and then refine over time is a great way to get over that feeling of just not knowing what to say on social media. The other thing to think about is that as well as your themes, there are actually three main kinds of posts that you might want to have on social media. You have your connect posts. So these are ones where you're talking about shared experiences with your customers. You're also asking them questions, so to find out more about them, and you're also sharing insight about you and your business. So it could be a post going back to the idea of the travel accessories. It could be a post about share your funniest travel story, or share your top destination, or a story about how your journey or your trip that you took somewhere where you couldn't find the perfect wallet for your currency and your passport was what led you to start the business, for example. These are all ways that you can connect with your customers. And about 40% of your posts, so 4 out of every 10 posts, should be something about connection. And the other 40%, or another 40%, I should say, should be value posts. So value posts are where you're offering something useful, informative, entertaining to your customer. So it could be your top 3 travel hacks or tips for getting the best seat on the aeroplane. It could be something to do with the perfect packing list. It could be something about creating a capsule wardrobe for your trip away. It could be a motivational quote or just something amusing, but it's something of value to your customer. And then again, that is just showing to them that not only are you an expert in your field, but you understand them and you understand what's useful to them. And they can be very useful posts in terms of building that rapport with your customer. The connect posts always are the highest engagement. 100%. If you want to have a highly engaged post, ask people something. Ask them why they started their business. Ask them what their favorite recipe is to cook. Ask them their favorite biscuit. If you ask people questions, you're going to get responses. So your connect posts will always be the highest engaged. It's another reason to have 40% of your posts being connect, because if you're trying to show engagement, then it's a great thing to do to show that connection, and you'll also get the most engagement, which helps your overall ranking with social media. The value posts, you can get some really great engagement, but often what you find is people will share these or they'll save them, which is also really beneficial because it keeps you in the top of their mind. And then 20% of your posts, so 2 out of every 10, should be plain selling. So that should be the buy now, this product's out here, this is the product, this is all about it, you can get it on my website, buy it now. The mix of 40% connect, 40% value, 20% sell is really beneficial because it allows different kinds of content. So you've got the connection for your engagement and building that relationship. You've got value, so people you understand your authority, your knowledge. And then the sell, of course, is telling people what you've got and letting them purchase it from you. Selling posts generally don't have great engagement. So if you put up a post asking somebody about their favorite memory of autumn from childhood and you get tons of engagement, and then you put one up with your latest back to school products and nobody comments, don't panic. This is the way that it works. People will engage with your value and your connect posts, particularly your connect posts, and the selling posts they won't engage with as much. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have them. When I speak to people who are really struggling with social media, there's often one of 2 things going on. First up, it might be purely selling posts. So there's a whole string of posts with just all the product. There's no backstory. There's no understanding of who the person is. There's no connection. There's no wooing the customer with stories and the business values and why they should buy from you. It's literally just pictures of the product. And they tend to not be doing very well because there's no engagement. And there's frankly nothing other than people posting their pictures, which is great for a website, but not so great for social media. The other thing that happens sometimes, the other end of the spectrum, is that people put up a whole load of connect posts or connect and value. There's connect and value, connect and value, connect and value, but you actually can't see any products. If you think about your top 9 posts are the ones that people see when they land on your profile, if none of those posts are selling posts, if they don't even feature your products, then why would people even be pushed to buy from you? So you want to get that mixture so you're not just only wooing them with your connection, but you're actually also selling to them as well. And you're talking about your products because that's what they're here for. They may love the connection. They may love having these chats with you and finding out more about you and your business. But ultimately, they're here for the product. They want to buy your product, so show it to them. And that's also to say that sometimes your product pictures don't always have to be selling posts. You could have a picture, a beautiful lifestyle photo of one of your products, and then you could have a connect story all about why you decided to start your business and ask people why, what their big ambition is in life or something like that. So don't always feel as if the connect posts can't be product based. Don't always feel like your value posts can't be product-based. They absolutely can be. A value post, for example, could be a whole description of how to look after the products once they've bought them. That's extremely useful. Giving them care instructions, giving them tips on how to get the best out of these products. That's all hugely useful. That's hugely valuable. But it's also focused on your products. It brings people back to the idea that you've got those products. So that's just a kind of quick overview, a couple of things for you to check. Have a look at your posts from the last, say, 9 that you've posted, 9 or 10, and ask yourself, do they fit into these categories? Have you got that mixture between value, connect, and sell? Are you too heavy on one and not enough on the other? Sometimes people will put these sell posts in and then they don't get the engagement. So actually then they'll think, which is fair enough, I've got to do more of what works and less of what doesn't. But you also have to have that trigger. It's like you're priming people, you're getting them interested, but then you do have to ask people directly. And then just finally, since we're talking about social media, one of the things that I often get asked, or one of the things that comes up when we're talking in the club or when I'm talking to clients, is the mental drain of social media. Social media is an incredibly powerful tool, but it is one of the biggest complaints that I get from small business owners, that it can be all-consuming. It can feel like you're spending all of this time and effort on your social media, and you can very quickly find that lots of your time is being taken up and you aren't necessarily getting the results that you want, so it can be quite disheartening. Social media can become this kind of monster in people's minds, or a time suck, and is one of the things that people often tell me they're finding really, really difficult. What I just want to finish up with really is some ideas about how you can right-size your social media. As I said, it is just a tool in your toolbox. So if you are spending all of your time on social media and you are not spending enough time doing other things like outreach for PR or email marketing or anything like that, then the chances are you're kind of skewing your efforts to one element instead of looking at your sales strategy as a more well-rounded thing. So here are some ideas to help you keep it in its rightful place. So first off, have a plan for your content. Having a schedule, even if it's just that you're going to post to your feed once a week, something like that, or twice a week, having a schedule will help you so that you're not constantly worrying about whether or not you should be posting that day. And having a formula will help as well. So for example, everything that I talked about with the content buckets and the value, connect and sell, that can help you pull together quickly a plan of how many times you have to post and the kind of post that you can put up, so that you don't have to spend quite as much time thinking about the very best thing to put up there. If you're going to be posting, say, every day on your stories, then why not have a theme for each day? So, on Mondays, you share what's coming up for the week ahead. Tuesdays, you do shout outs to other business. Wednesdays, you share your weekly wins. Whatever it is, just think about formulas and ways that you can just put together something that is loose enough that it allows you to be spontaneous and to add stuff in, so you don't feel like it's rigid and planned to the nth degree. But at the same time, you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. Every day when you wake up, you don't have to then spend half an hour, 45 minutes trying to work out what your plan for social media that day is going to be. You can also batch your content creation. So again, maybe once a week on a Monday, for example, I tend to typically create any posts that I'm going to be putting up on Instagram, and I plan out what I'm going to be saying on stories or whether or not I'm going to do a live. Of course, I chop and change things. I'll drop things in or I'll pull things out, but I've basically done my thought process on a Monday so that the rest of the week I'm just executing rather than spending a lot of time and effort thinking about it. Another great tip is to set yourself a time limit. So it is important that you engage with people, that you spend some time every day reaching out to other accounts, whether they're people you could collaborate with or people where your ideal customer is hanging out, or whether it's your ideal customer themselves. But set a limit. Have a kitchen timer with 20 minutes on it. Use that to schedule your time and then get out of there. I like to sometimes think of it as Catherine from marketing. So Catherine from marketing has to do 20 minutes Instagram engagement. That's what I'm going to go and do. And then when it's done, I get out of there. I don't necessarily spend a lot of time, unless it's, I want to spend time in the evening relaxing and scrolling through my feed, then that's one thing. But otherwise, if it's something that I'm doing as a business task, I try and keep it very much under control. So I've got a timer. Also have a really good think about how many platforms you need to be on. It's very tempting at the beginning to go for shiny new tactic syndrome, to decide that you have to be on Instagram, and then you've heard Twitter's having a resurgence, and you've also heard that LinkedIn's great, so you end up being across lots of different platforms. If you're finding it overwhelming, consider really where is the top platform for your customer and can you focus there? What can you automate? So there's a lot of debate between scheduled posting and non-scheduled posting. If it's going to make the difference between you not posting at all and you actually posting, then why not schedule it? But of course, it's much better for you to turn up and do it organically. But have a think about what you could certainly automate, or if it's not automated, then at least get it pre-planned. Another thing that can really help you with your mental state when you're on social media is to avoid comparisons. And really, I think this is the kind of point that I'd like to finish on, is that social media is a skill that you have to learn. You are absolutely going to be able to master it if you stick with it, if you keep learning what works, if you keep close to your ideal customer and you keep showing up. So much of it is to do with consistency. And it's really hard to do all of those things and to keep going, especially at the beginning where it feels like you're shouting into a void. If you can avoid comparing yourself, you will have a much better time on social media. In fact, I would suggest that if you are not enjoying social media, go through the list of all the people that you follow and mute the ones that make you feel bad, that make you feel like you're not doing as well as them, that maybe make you annoyed, that maybe irritate you, or you find what they say kind of sort of fascinating but also annoying at the same time. I think we've all got a few of those. Anybody who gives you any negative feelings at all, just try muting them for 30 days. You don't have to unfollow them. And even if it's somebody that you care about, even if it's a friend of yours who you started this business with, every time you look at their content, it makes you feel inadequate. Just mute them, because if you are not enjoying showing up on social media, it does come across. You'll do it less and less. You will find it a real chore. Whereas actually, if you mute those people and only follow people or only interact with people who make you feel good, then you'll have a much better, much more positive experience on social media. And it will be something that you enjoy doing and that you can really get into doing and make the most of it. So there you go. That is my whistle-stop tour through social media. I know that there's a huge topic here, and it is something that I would definitely suggest if you are struggling with your social media, then taking the time to really look at it and to try and analyze what's working, to try and educate yourself as much as possible, then it is really important. And listening to podcasts or taking courses, that's why I include a section on marketing in both Grow Your Sales as well as Start Your Business, because it is really important for you as a small business owner. Even if you're going to outsource elements of your marketing, you need to still understand what you're trying to do, because it will help you manage whoever you get in to help you with your marketing, for example. So I hope you found that useful. I do absolutely love to see where you are listening to the podcast. So if you're listening to this, then do come and find me on social media. I'm at Future Retail UK, and give me a shout out or give me a tag and show me where you're listening, because I absolutely love it. Love to watch people packing their orders up or whatever else. And also tell me, what was your big takeaway? What did you get from this podcast? Is there anything that you learned that you didn't know, or is it reinforced what you already do know? Is there anything that you're going to be doing differently on social media? I would love for you to come along, send me a DM and tell me. In the meantime, it means a huge amount to me if you rate, review the podcast. It just helps other people find the podcast. And of course, please do subscribe. It will help you be the first to know when there is a new episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful day. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretail.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions, or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while, but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, with a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretail.com.